Braamfontein is well known for being a creative neighbourhood. But one look at the bustling neighbourhood will tell you that the art is not just taking place inside the walls of Braamfontein, it's all over them. Street art is not just a part of Braamfontein, street art is the essence of Braamfontein. Johannesburg as a city has become synonymous with street art and has come to host one of the biggest street art festivals in Africa, the City of Gold Urban Art Festival. And with the street art scene bustling, companies are now jumping on board at the opportunity to have street artists create pieces on their walls and pillars. So street art is now not only a way of artistic expression, but also a means of making a living. Welcome to the beauty of Braam. In this podcast episode, we're going to be painting a picture of street art, by getting right into the heart of this vibrant, colourful, and often misunderstood scene. We are here at Henry Nxumalo Street. If you've ever ordered an Uber outside of Toy Toy, then you'll recognize the space under the bridge filled with pillars that have graffiti on them. As we walk through, there's a lot of portraits, colourful portraits, purple faces, yellow faces, blonde hair, interesting creatures. And you'll also find this one mural in particular, which shows a couple painted in orange graffiti on a black background in this fluid, blob-like style, obviously caught in a loving embrace. This is a work by tattoo artist, graphic designer, and now up-and-coming street artist, Leigh Le Roux, who joins us today to talk about his work. Okay, so we have lots of questions for you. We'll start off basic though. Can you just tell us who you are and what you do?
Cool, I'm Leigh Le Roux. I'm a tattoo artist, illustrator, and muralist. And yeah, that's about it. And
in terms of being a muralist, how did you become that? How did you start doing that?
So 2 years ago, I was doing the remote work thing. I was doing like website design, and I was in Bali at the time, and some people in that community were doing like spray paint. So I asked them if I could try it out. I bought some cans and then found a spot that I was able to like spray paint in, and I went for it. And then 6 months after that stint, I came back and I had a style already, and I saw that it could be put onto walls quite easily for me. So I just came back and decided to like start putting that out there. A couple of self-sponsored murals, but yeah.
So you're talking about your style. Can you describe your style a little bit for us?
I would say blob vibes is kind of what I'm going for. I used to do a lot of fine line, like 1,000 lines situations, but I decided, because of the graphic design thing, that I wanted to like simplify. So thicker lines were much easier for me to do on like a wall as well. And yeah, so I leaned into that. That's basically what it was. The subject matter was very much like love vibes. So the characters that I did draw were like inspired by some old friends of mine. They were like very affectionate, and like when they were in a moment, they were like on a couch and just like being there. I just decided to bring that forward because I didn't really see that kind of narrative in the street art scene, and I felt like those were the things that I personally treasured, were like moments with like close friends. So yeah, the characters were like born from that.
So you do murals here in Joburg. Could you tell us a little bit like where we might see your work?
Cool. So I think I've got 2 pieces in Greenside at the moment. One at Best Friends Bar, and I think there's also in the parking area to Greenside. And then I did one at the Back to the City Festival last year. That one is still there, but I think they probably will be covering that up. It's on one of the pillars in Braam. And then there's also, where else? Smoke and Kills. There's 2 pieces there. Yeah, I generally, the way that I target where I want to put my murals is spaces that I see as becoming culturally relevant, like places where I expect the advertising people to be, because they will generally be the ones that like lead you to have brand deals at some point. Also, the characters, wherever they do put them, I want them to enjoy that space. So yeah, that's my like
So why did you choose muraling as a medium? Like, what do you think makes it unique compared to other mediums?
I think it's like the easiest business card you can have, because once you leave it, like, it's there. Sure, certain spaces it can be covered because of like the graffiti scene, but the spaces that I generally select are not as outside as like the spaces that you see a lot of graffiti covering. I do like to have it in spaces where I feel like it will be there for a while. So spray paint is the most expensive material from what I've seen. I think there are different ways of doing it like more efficiently. So generally, if you can use normal like paint, it's a bit more economic when it comes to like having your background color be something you just roller paint on. When it came to my particular situation, I'm just faster with spray paint. So a budget for me would be like 2.5 for a mural, like generally. But I did have like, before I got into the full-time art thing, I was putting away money. So I had like a lump sum of like savings that was like seen as the investment into creating a portfolio. So yeah, the first free, like I would say, if you are a street artist that's starting off, if you can do like 10 free murals, it'll just give you like a wide range of like portfolio to like showcase to other clients. So yeah.
And then can you tell me a little bit about like how commissions work? Like how much of your work is commissioned and how much do you do just like out of your own desire to make art?
So at the beginning, I think be prepared to do free ones. I think you just want to get your portfolio out there. The thing that helped me was that I enjoyed video. So my first time doing graffiti, I recorded it, and that was the concept behind the video. So for me, documenting the actual journey has helped, and it lets that mural live on, even if it does get covered. When it comes to commission stuff, I think it's been businesses that kind of approach me. They see the videos and they're like, we would love for you to add your characters to our space. The biggest projects was probably been the one with Crabble Poppy and Halls. That was one where like they just put out a call and I just messaged in, and they did respect like an artist's lifestyle. You need to actually be paid for your work, so they paid for that. So yeah. The longest piece is again going to be the Tom's Music piece. That was like, I think we had about a week, but I only had like available time like I think 3 to 4 days. That was a project where I even literally had my family come through to help, because the wall was too big for me to like do myself. But my general pieces will take me 1 to 2 days. Stuff that I have like at Smoke and Kills, each one of those took like maybe 4 hours. It's because it's like a style I know, so I can do it quite naturally. And then it's just like scheduling. So for me, I have to be at my tattoo studio like Tuesday to Saturday. So my general like spray paint days are like Sunday, Monday. And if it's a project that's like commissioned, my studio is also quite open to me like booking out that day and going.
And like specifically here in Braam, how would you describe like the street art scene, or in Joburg more generally?
I would say the street art, okay, there is certain sectors of street art. From my experience, there's the graffiti artists and then there's like the street artists. The graffiti artists generally, like you'll see them put up stuff without pay. It's very much like you find a space, you go for it. The street artists seem to be more of like, permission based. The street art scene is more like commissions. There's no risk when it comes to like legality. I think there's a lot of people coming up now. I think there's actually quite a lot of street artists that I wasn't exposed to because like I wasn't in that space for a long time. And only now do I see, there's been this market for like a while. I think you can see a lot of it when I think the pillars show you that. I think the pillars in Joburg and Braam kind of showcase people that are being commissioned to now start doing pillars. But you're also starting to see the graffiti artists are also being commissioned now. I think Charmaine is an example of like a graffiti artist that's now moving into the commercial space. Yeah, I think there's a lot of variety out there. I think Cape Town also has a lot of artists that I haven't met yet, but the circles are very small. So if you know one person, you end up finding out that you know everyone. So yeah, I think it's just communities. There's going to be gatekeeping in every art form you do. So if you just approach it in a certain way, I think they'll be quite welcoming.
Yeah, can you tell us about some of your favorite work that you've done?
Okay, so there was a mural on Tom's Music in Braam. That was part of the campaign with Halls. That was the biggest wall I've ever done. There was also a collaboration with another artist, Bukle. She does like patterns. So that was cool. Unfortunately, it is a paid wall, so they do rent it out. So it did get covered. But that was my first time also documenting the process in a lengthy way. So I do still at least get to look back at it. And then I think the piece that I get the most joy out of right now is still a piece that I have in a parking lot in Greenside. It felt very natural in that piece. And I still look at it without nitpicking. So that's that's my favorite right now.
What is your inspiration for your work, and do you have any artists that you look up to?
The inspiration is generally going to be like those friends that I had. COVID was pretty rough, so people drift apart. You're now from seeing people every day. I don't get to see them much anymore. People grow up, that is still the driving force behind it. I do still want the characters to show a love for wherever they are, and they have a hopeful aspect to them that I really enjoy. Then when it comes to people that kind of influenced me to do what I'm doing now, I would say a lot of the YouTube artists kind of inspired me. Also TikTok. The younger generation is doing things very differently, and they're learning how to showcase their work in a better way. So that kind of is what's pushing me forward. The main artist though that got me really into it was 1000. He's a graffiti artist in the US, and he just documented how he took his medium, his art form, and he put it onto different things. So that kind of inspired me to okay, let's try spray paint. That was him. Yeah. Personally, I did dabble in the graffiti thing, I think once or twice. I personally didn't enjoy it. There's just too much paranoia for my liking. The risk of being caught in someone deciding to lay a charge is just something I didn't want to take the risk with. I just know that if you have a record, it's very hard to travel and do your work, your art. So I didn't really want to take that risk. I did it once and it was okay, but I felt the work itself showed that I wasn't comfortable. And I enjoy taking my time with my pieces. I don't really want to rush. Yeah.
Okay, and then do you think that there are misconceptions or stigmas around street art that you would like to change?
I don't know if I feel like the graffiti scene, sure. I think not everyone knows that a lot of the times these days, graffiti artists are asking for permission. A lot of people will approach, if there is a wall that's available, they will approach the owner rather than bomb. Bombing just has too much risk to it. I think you're starting to see also brands are now becoming way more acceptable of it and commissioning street artists. I do feel like street artists are more able to create now than they used to. And I do feel like the work is getting better. I feel like people are being allowed to push further. Yeah.
How Johannesburg, and Braamfontein more specifically, became a hub for spray-painted works of art is a phenomenon that's deeply rooted in South Africa's history. Specifically, the scene was connected to the injustices that were brought on during apartheid. So during apartheid, young Johannesburg artists turned to street art as a way to express frustration, anger, and artistic genius onto buildings that were falling into dilapidation at the time. Street art was a form of artistic expression that was accessible to a black community that faced systemic exclusion, because it was a cost-effective way to create art that would be seen by an entire community. The scene skyrocketed during the beginning of democracy as well, and by the early 2000s, work was actually being commissioned by the Johannesburg Development Agency from street artists in Braamfontein to improve the appearance of the area. A walk down Jutta Street alone showcases artwork by famous artists such as Gordon Freud, of a minibus taxi made entirely from coat hangers, from Alice Eddy, who filled a grey brick wall with 1,000 black painted words, which are the most commonly used online passwords, and Shepard Fairey's massive mural of Nelson Mandela, which reads, "The Purple Shall Govern," an homage to an anti-apartheid protest which took place in Cape Town, where police used water cannons filled with purple dye to disperse a crowd of protesters. It is not unlikely that these famous artists visited our next stop on this journey, Grayscale. This is one of the most famous shops in the country that sells graffiti supplies, street art supplies, and, as they say, display young emerging artists in the alternative lowbrow arts that aren't represented in mainstream galleries. So we'll start with an easy question. Can you just introduce yourself for us and tell us what you do?
Okay, my name is Maniret. I'm a graffiti artist, illustrator, and entrepreneur.
And how would you describe Grayscale?
Grayscale is a cultural hub where graffiti, street art, tattoo art, and just cultural hip-hop and underground culture hub.
So what is Grayscale to you and to other street artists?
To me personally, it's like a very educational institute. There's like a lot of things I learned from working here. There's a lot of people I met. There's a lot of like activities that came with working here, like such as this, which is stuff that I'm like not generally used to. So it's like a lot of learning, a lot of growing, and a lot of inspiration, so it's really an important step of my journey.
Okay, and so obviously you sell materials for street art over there. How much do people usually spend when they come here to get materials?
Okay, it really depends. There's like people that are really starting out, trying to test. There's people that are like really professionals and get like high paying jobs like for murals. There's like agencies that come, there's like general day-to-day artists that come, so it's like really a variation of how much people spend. I've seen someone spend 70 rand, I've seen someone spend 20,000, so it depends.
Okay, so could you tell us what you love about street art and what it means to you to be a street artist?
I would say the adrenaline, also like the social experience that it came with, and it's really cool, man, being outside and doing what you love. It's kind of like, I don't know if I would say to some extent like free exposure, instead of like just being subjected to like a gallery and having like X amount of people seeing your work, rather than it being on the street where like thousands and hundreds of people pass day to day, even if they're not paying attention to it, it's there, it's in their faces. So I really like that about that, and also like the opportunities that come with it. It's really cool.
And then my next question is, how would you describe the street art scene in Braamfontein or Joburg?
It's really cool. It's really cool. There's like a lot of young people out here. There's like a lot of public art. It makes the place exciting, it gives it color, it gives it life, and it gives that vibration to the streets of Braam in terms of like the youth is concerned. It makes it look very youthful. It makes it look like a cool place to like come and grow, with people that come here for school and all of that. Some might not be exposed to this, so it kind of broadens people's horizons, especially young minds. So it really is dope, and there's also like a lot of room for improvement and growth. But yeah, it's going great, I won't lie.
Okay. So you talk about street art as like it's a community. Do you think this is like a meeting place for that community, Grayscale?
Word, but there's like also I would say a thin line between graffiti and street art, but most people that do like what is considered street art to some extent started out as graffiti artists and just grew with the craft. So yeah, places like this is really important because we have events that cater to like those specific crowds. We have like activations that we do that really benefit people like in the community. So I would say more than anything, yeah, it is a community.
Okay. And what do you think the purpose of street art is today?
I'll answer that with my own personal views, but I would say it's to like brighten up the streets, man. Johannesburg is a very grimy city. There's like a lot of things we can do without, so I feel like street art and public art kind of bridges that gap, like taking maybe walls from abandoned buildings and just giving them like new color and new light, which is really super important for our city at the moment. I feel like it really needs a touch of paint and a lot of development. So yeah.
And Grayscale has been seen as like the prime spot for street artists. Why do you think that is?
First I would say it's the aesthetic, how the place is, how it looks, how it feels, the shopping experience. Obviously when you get here you find people that are really interested in the culture, people that have profound knowledge of it, people that are willing to share like their skills, people that are willing to like tell you about the products. It's just more than a store really to a lot of people. So yeah, man, I would say it's super important for a space like this to exist, where it also kind of broadens the horizon for like also kids who aren't necessarily like exposed to these types of settings or these types of places, I would say. But it's really super important in one's journey, because yeah, there's really a lot you can learn from here. As I said earlier, it's like a cultural institute.
Why do you think it's important to also have this gallery space as part of the store?
It's super important because there's not like a lot of galleries that really shine or put the beam on like street artists, graffiti artists, and tattoo artists, really, if we be honest. So it's super important for like people who wouldn't get a chance to be in a gallery establishment or be in a chance to hang their work, man, in like a different space than the streets, so it's super important because most of these cats probably wouldn't even be in galleries and having like other people critique their work in that level, so it's super important for like street artists and graffiti artists and tattoo artists to have a gallery where they can express themselves freely.
Do you think that there's a stigma around this kind of art, and do you think that Grayscale is trying to challenge that?
To be honest, I think in the olden days, but nowadays people are more, they gravitate towards it. People like it. They understand it's like a medium of art, a form of expression and a way of communicating. So to some extent, a lot of people grew to appreciate the culture. So I mean, there is still a few challenges, but I'd say it's not that bad.
Thank you for answering all of our questions. And would you be able to show us some of the products that Grayscale sells?
So it would be the gold, which is acrylic. It's low pressure. You can use it on canvas. You can pretty much use it anywhere really. It's like the most premium top quality paint. But they're all like, that good. This is the black range, which is like $90. It's pretty much almost the same, but the difference is the formula and the pressure. So this is more high pressure. This is used more for like street style stuff, it was created for really like day-to-day graffiti artists, high pigmentation, fast drying, high pressure, which means the can will run out quick, which means you are likely to paint more quicker with it. And then this is synthetic. This is like more economical, but the finish is gloss, so it kind of looks like enamel paint. Most people that use this paint is like generally the ones who are still trying to start and figure out and not really waste a lot of money. So yeah, these are the 3 products that we have in spray. And then we have like tag sprays, like your acetones. We have like fluorescence, we have glow in the dark, we have spider effects. And then we have acrylic pens, we have alcohol ink pens. You can use that for like customizing stuff. You can use that for drawing on canvas. Pretty much a lot of different things, really.
Okay.
And then when you're working, would you say your base like go-to products are for your art?
To be honest, all of them, depending what type of finish I'm looking for, what style am I, So for example, if I'm doing like more primitive style stuff, I'd use this because also the finish is very shiny, so it gives it like a kind of old school vibe to it. So if I'm like bombing, doing like illegal stuff, I'll generally gravitate towards the black because it's quick, like the pressure's high. So one spray I get away with a lot. And then for mostly like detailed stuff, like characters or like stuff where I'm gonna need to have like much control over the can, I would generally use the gold. So I use all of these, like I use brushes, I use rollers, markers, I use everything. Yeah.
Did we ask how long have you been doing street art and graffiti art?
I'd say I've been doing it seriously for 4 years now, and this is like the first year I'm kind of like doing it full time.
And last question I think is, what drew you to this medium?
I've always had an interest in it, I've always been like I had an interest in arts, drawing and stuff like that. And I met one friend of mine. At that time we wasn't friends, but I met this homie. He was painting a mural, so I was supposed to send him a t-shirt. So we met up where he was painting, and I just got even more interested, and it was much more easier to ask questions and find out really what's going on in the culture, because he was like there firsthand. So yeah, it just grew from there, man.
You've been listening to The Beauty of Braam, an episode of the We Should Be Writing podcast. This podcast is a product of the Honours in Journalism and Media Studies program at the Wits Centre for Journalism in Johannesburg. Our producer was Seth Thorne, our editor was Georgia Cartwright, and our show host was myself, Kimberly Kirsten. Our graphics were produced by Spongile Molambo, and our recording was done by Apolele Mbokoto. Our script was written by Nonhlanhla Matebula. Additional episode music credits and info are available on our Anchor FM page. On all social media, we are @WitsVuvuzela, and you can see more of our work on witsvuvuzela.com.